This wasn't just tense, it was explosive. In a rare moment of total clarity, Senator Mazie Hirono confronts Pam Bondi with a series of questions the Justice Department doesn't want answered. And instead of transparency, Americans get deflection, contradiction, and silence. Watch closely.
Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, FISA Section 702 will expire in 6 months. In response to my questions for the record, at your confirmation hearing, you said you did not have experience with FISA, but if confirmed, you would consult with experts at DOJ. Now, you've had that opportunity. Do you support adding additional safeguards for searching Americans' communications in the 702 database?
Senator, Section 702 is a vital source of foreign intelligence and instrumental in keeping Americans safe. We also take individuals' rights of their individual rights of all Americans very seriously. And many statutory reforms to FISA have incorporate safeguards. They have to incorporate safeguards to protect our civil liberties. The Department of Justice looks forward to working with you to discuss anything regarding 702.
Appreciate
I believe
that.
my staff, and Senator, I also want to thank you for this hearing. Your staff met with my staff, and I greatly appreciate that.
Thank you. We're going to be working on 702, so I appreciate the openness to further amending 702. At your confirmation hearing, you assured me that it is the Department of Justice's decision to determine what cases will be prosecuted. Last month, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia was forced out. President Trump then posted the message behind me asking about prosecuting James Comey. You then appointed a new U.S. attorney who within days secured an indictment against James Comey. That social media post behind me saying, "What about Comey?" was directed to Pam. Are you the Pam that the president was referring to?
I'm sure I was.
So it's very clear to me that when the president posts something like that, that he considers the DOJ to be his law firm and you his lawyer. And in fact, very shortly after the post to you, Comey gets indicted. Last year, President Trump's new border czar, Tom Homan, was videotaped taking a bag with $50,000 in cash from undercover FBI agents after suggesting he could help with government contracts. Sounds like a bribe. 2 weeks ago, DOJ officials reportedly shut down the bribery investigation into Mr. Homan. Ms. Bondi, did you approve closing the Homan bribery investigation?
Senator Hirono, as I stated earlier, the Department of Justice and the FBI conducted a thorough review, and they found no credible evidence of any wrongdoing. You were also on video outside the White House protesting with a group called CASA, where Antifa members were. Does that mean you're a member of Antifa?
You know, I simply asked a question as to whether or not you approve the shutting down of the investigation of Mr. Homan. I have to assume that you did because the FBI it reports to you. But the American people would look at the situation where this person is taking a $50,000 in cash, no less, and you testified today that a thorough investigation was done. Now, I have to assume, I conclude, that since no wrongdoing was determined, that in answer to Senator Whitehouse's question, he kept the money. He kept the money, and I hope that he put that on his tax returns as income. Next question. Over 1,200 rioters were convicted of charges related to January 6th. President Trump has since pardoned nearly all of them. As if that weren't enough, last month there were reports that a lawyer for the January 6th rioters met with senior DOJ officials about setting up a compensation fund like the one that Congress set up after 9/11 to compensate these rioters. Ms. Bondi, is anyone at DOJ considering setting up a compensation fund for January 6th rioters? Yes or no?
Senator, I have had no meetings or discussions about a fund.
So would you support such a fund? Would you okay such a fund?
Senator, you can send me the information on the fund, and I'd be happy to look at it.
No, but do you think that's a good idea to, this is what I'm getting at. Because to actually set up a fund and to have people talking with your senior people at DOJ, political people, about creating a fund, and you won't let us know what you think about that, that's pretty unbelievable. On January 30th of this year, the Trump DOJ's antitrust division sued to block the merger of two tech companies. Then, a well-connected lobbyist met with your political deputies who overruled the career staff and approved the merger. So there's a settlement on that. And separately, DOJ sued Ticketmaster last year for monopolizing concert tickets and forcing consumers to pay outrageous fees. Ticketmaster has hired the exact same lobbyists who met with senior DOJ political people regarding the merger of the two tech companies. So my question is, Ms. Bondi, have lobbyists met with your political deputies about the Ticketmaster case?
Senator Hirono, as I stated earlier, I am not going to discuss anything that is ongoing. Gail Slater runs the antitrust
I would
office,
say
and Gail Slater, if I can finish, Gail Slater is doing an incredible job running my antitrust unit.
It's highly likely, Ms. Bondi, that the same lobbyists who met with your people basically got rid of the antitrust case.
Senator, I don't think a lot of people
I
like
would
that
say
you were out
they're probably
protesting
meeting
with
you
Antifa.
right now. Next question. You have fired dozens of career prosecutors because they worked on cases involving President Trump or January 6 rioters. For example, one career federal prosecutor who secured over 100 convictions in Florida. He also spent time in D.C. prosecuting January 6 cases. He received an outstanding review only 2 days before you signed a memo firing him. The memo cited no reason for his firing. Are you firing career prosecutors solely because they worked on cases like January 6th that the president doesn't like?
Senator Hirono, I am not going
Yes
to talk
or no?
about personnel matters with you.
Well, we all know that hundreds of career prosecutors have left the DOJ, and literally hundreds, we're told.
Yeah, Senator, are you familiar with the one that threw a sandwich at an ICE officer? Are you a Homeland Security officer?
Here is the
Are you familiar
reason.
with the one who went out on her lunch break and was
Ms. Bondi,
making obscene gestures?
Would you say that DOJ losing these career prosecutors and the thousands of hours of experience they have prosecuting criminals, that is not a reassuring situation?
Senator, many employees took the fork in the road and resigned. DOJ is hiring committed prosecutors who will actually come into the office and work, and not work remotely, and
think we all
prosecute
know that-
violent criminals around the country and terrorists. And I am very proud
when you fire-
of the work all of our prosecutors
I'm running out
are
of
doing.
time, so I think you should stop with your continuous interruptions, in my opinion. Mr. Chairman, I just want to close by saying that what was once the Department of Justice has become the Department of Revenge and Corruption. Rather than pursuing cases without fear or favor, this DOJ seeks to favor the president's friends and instill fear in his alleged enemies. If you're a friend of the president, this corrupt DOJ will bend over backwards to help you, just like it dropped the bribery investigation of Tom Homan, like it's considering paying money to January 6 rioters, and like it has put antitrust enforcement decisions in the hands of well-connected lobbyists. But if you're on the wrong side of this president, you will face the wrath of DOJ, no matter what the facts, law, or justice support. James Comey is indicted days after the president's social media directive. Experienced career prosecutors are fired just because they were assigned to work on January 6 cases. Blue states are sued to get highly sensitive private voter data, whereas red states are left alone. The double standard is clear, and the American people are waking up to the corruption and favoritism and the lawlessness of the DOJ. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This exchange matters because it exposes how power is exercised when accountability is inconvenient. Senator Mazie Hirono doesn't come in shouting or posturing. She comes in methodical, precise, and grounded in the law. And that's exactly why this clash hits so hard. What Hirono is really testing here is not ideology, but independence, whether the Department of Justice still functions as a neutral institution or as a political weapon. She begins with FISA Section 702, one of the most powerful surveillance authorities the federal government has. This law allows intelligence agencies to collect communications involving foreign targets, but it also inevitably sweeps up communications of Americans. That's why safeguards matter. Hirono isn't asking Bondi to oppose national security. She's asking whether Americans' constitutional rights deserve stronger protection when their data is searched. Bondi's answer sounds reassuring on the surface, but it's carefully non-committal. She praises 702, talks about safety, references existing safeguards, but never answers the core question: should there be stronger limits on searching Americans' communications? That omission is telling. Then, Hirono pivots to something even more serious: political interference in prosecutions. She lays out a timeline that Americans should pay attention to. A U.S. attorney is forced out. The president posts "What about Comey?" on social media. Days later, James Comey is indicted. Hirono isn't alleging a conspiracy. She's asking whether Bondi sees the danger in even the appearance that DOJ responds to presidential directives. Bondi confirms the post was aimed at her, but offers no meaningful separation between the president's demands and prosecutorial decisions. That silence speaks volumes. The exchange grows more intense when Hirono raises the $50,000 cash incident involving Tom Homan, a bag of cash, undercover agents, and a bribery investigation that quietly disappears. Hirono asks a simple yes or no question: did you approve shutting it down? Bondi avoids it. She says there was no wrongdoing, but never explains how a public cash handoff ends with no accountability. Hirono drives the point home in a way Americans immediately understand. If no crime occurred, then who kept the money, and was it reported as income? That's not theatrics, that's basic rule of law logic. Then comes January 6th, hundreds convicted, nearly all pardoned, and now reports of DOJ officials discussing a possible compensation fund for people who attacked the Capitol. Hirono's incredulity mirrors what many Americans are thinking. Compensation is for victims, not perpetrators. Bondi refuses to take a position, deferring again and again, even as the moral stakes couldn't be clearer. The antitrust section may sound technical, but it's crucial. Hirono describes a familiar Washington pattern: career prosecutors block a merger, lobbyists intervene, political appointees override professionals, and suddenly the case disappears. Then the same lobbyists show up in another major antitrust case involving Ticketmaster. Bondi declines to answer, citing ongoing matters, even though earlier she freely discussed other pending cases when it suited her. Finally, Hirono addresses the purge of career prosecutors, people with decades of experience, glowing performance reviews, suddenly fired without explanation after working on January 6th or Trump-related cases. Bondi dismisses it as resignations and remote work issues, but Hirono names what's really being lost: institutional knowledge, independence, and public trust. Her closing statement lands because it connects every thread. This isn't about one case or one investigation. It's about a Justice Department that appears to reward loyalty and punish dissent. Friends of the president get leniency, critics get scrutiny, blue states get demands, red states get passes. When the law is applied unevenly, the system itself is weakened. This is why hearings like this matter, not because of the headlines, but because Americans get to see how power responds when pressed by facts instead of slogans. If you care about equal justice under the law, not revenge, not favoritism, this is the kind of moment you need to pay attention to. And if you believe accountability should apply to everyone, regardless of party or position, make sure you stay informed, share this with the public, and demand better. Before you scroll away, ask yourself this: if the Justice Department won't clearly separate itself from presidential pressure, who is actually protecting the rule of law? And if accountability depends on who you know rather than what you did, is justice still equal in America? If you care about transparency and accountability, like this video, subscribe for more clear-eyed analysis, and share this with someone who believes justice should apply to everyone. Then, drop your thoughts in the comments. This conversation belongs to the public.